Joining us on the Spin Room, I'm your host, Amir Kaufman. Today, we are welcoming back to the Spin Room Israeli Parliament member Amir Ohana of the ruling Likud party. Amir, it is good to see you. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you, Amir. Good to be here with you and with the two Danis.
That's right. In studio to partake in the discussion today are former Israeli ambassador to France, Daniel Sheck, and editor of the English online magazine Mida, Danny Seaman. Thank you both for joining us, Daniels.
Thank you.
Our three topics of discussion today with Knesset member Ohana are: tensions are still high between Israelis and Palestinians after the deadly events this Monday and ahead of tomorrow's expected protests on the border between Israel and Gaza. We'll then discuss the diplomatic battle that has ensued since that Monday between Israel and Turkey, and we'll end with some internal politics and controversial legislation that Knesset member Ohana and his party are pushing. Okay, our first topic is Gaza. The deadly events on the Gaza border on Monday, where 61 Palestinians were killed by Israeli forces, have been represented as a simple case of armed soldiers shooting on peaceful demonstrations. But this may not, in fact, be the case, even according to none other than one of the co-founders of Hamas, Mohammed al-Zahar, who told Al Jazeera that when Hamas talks about peaceful resistance, it is, quote, deceiving the public. Al-Zahar's statement comes on the heels of an admission by Hamas that 50 of the 61 people killed on Monday were actually members of the organization.
هذه مقاومة، هل هذه مقاومة سلمية؟ هذه ليست مقاومة سلمية. هل خفت هذا الخيار؟ لا، ما خفش، بالعكس هذا بيتطور بينمو وواضح هذا الأمر. وبالتالي عندما نقول إنه هذه مقاومة سلمية وهذه مقاومة سلمية بنخدع الشارع. هذه مقاومة سلمية مدعومة بقوة عسكرية وقوة أمنية.
Amir, thank you again for coming on the show. Why do you think Hamas is coming out now saying that these are not peaceful protests and that those killed were Hamas members? Doesn't that weaken their case that they're always trying to prove that Israel is shooting civilians? Why are they doing that?
They are proud of it.
They're proud of it.
Let there be no mistake. Hamas is an organization totally devoted to the destruction of the state of Israel and the killing of as many Jews as possible. If one would read Hamas covenant, they would find in section 7 that they yearn, and I quote, to the day where the rocks and the trees, al-shajar wal-hajjar in Arabic, would shout, "O Muslim, slave of the Lord, there is a Jew behind me, come and slaughter him." A Jew, mind you, not an Israeli. This is how anti-Semitic this covenant is. And they don't only say, they demonstrate it by deeds. Some of the most horrific terror attacks that we have known, and the most cruel, vicious terror attacks, came from Hamas. So they are proud of it.
They're proud of it. However, there's a lot of international critique of what they call excessive use of force by Israel. Why doesn't Israel, for example, use rubber bullets, more water cannons, skunk water? But is it the only way? Is using live fire, live ammunition the only way to keep those people away from the fence?
It is the last resort. The first option is, of course, what you said, is rubber bullets and water, and we do all of that. But I have a very simple advice for those who are worried about the death toll in Gaza. Just keep them away from the fence. They can demonstrate, they can burn, they can raise Nazi flags, which they do, and we won't harm them. But when they come to break the fence, this is an act. Are these
orchestrated by Hamas?
Of course, it's not a question. It is orchestrated by Hamas and funded by Iran, which the Shin Bet exposed just this
the Israeli
week.
Security Service, Shin Bet. Daniel, if Monday's mass protests throughout these whole past few months and riots, were indeed orchestrated by Hamas, does it still justify or explain that high death toll on Monday?
I don't know. I have a bad habit. I speak only about things that I understand. And I'm not an operational officer. I don't know if there are better ways to do it. It's clear that the Israeli authorities have the right to defend Israel's borders. I can only hope that they're doing it in the best possible way and that they weigh the options. I'm not always convinced that they succeed, but I don't feel comfortable criticizing things that I'm not an expert on. I do want to take a step back, though, and remind everybody that for the past 2, maybe even 3 years, all the highest level people in the Israeli security forces and a number of cabinet ministers, some of them from our friend Amir Ohana's party, have been regularly stating a truth, I think, that Gaza is a pressure cooker, that it's going to boil over, and that there needs to be some massive humanitarian intervention, not out of altruism. I might have an altruistic motivation, but even if there's no altruism, it's just in Israel's interest.
Why hasn't Israel done anything on that issue?
And for all these 2 years, nothing, or next to nothing has happened. And now that it has boiled over, that their prediction has come true, everybody sort of rolls their eyes into the sky. Where did this come from?
Coming.
No one
respond to
rolls
that?
their eyes and no one is in surprise because they have anticipated what is happening in Gaza. But on the other hand, what are we to do? I mean, we bring almost 1,000 trucks to Gaza every day to bring supplies, food, whatever, and we are taking a risk by doing that. But it is okay. We bring cement into Gaza while we sure know that some of this cement will be building the tunnels underneath our villages. But we do it. But what are we to do? To let them come in to work?
Okay.
This is a too large risk. We have to defend our citizens.
Could Israel have done more to avoid this? In these 2 or 3 years, for example, that Daniel Sheik was talking about?
Why is the onus on Israel? Why is it not on Hamas to prevent this from happening?
Because we're Israelis. It's too easy to put the onus on others.
I didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me now.
No,
please allow me to finish the point.
Why don't we do something?
That's your opinion.
Yes,
my opinion is that we did something. We withdrew from the Gaza Strip. We left there. There's not a single living or dead Jew in the Gaza Strip. When is the responsibility for them? Danny has no expectations of them because he has that infantilization of the Arabs that we can't expect more of them. I expect more of them. And if they can't do it, and all they do, they are the biggest recipient of international aid than any country in the world right now.
We pay the price, you and I.
No, we don't pay the price. They're the ones paying the price. They're the ones paying the price. We pay the price because we had to leave.
We do too.
We were told to leave, we'll have peace. Here we left. Is there any peace?
And it was much better when we were there.
Yes, it was. And the same people are telling us now that we should be leaving Judea and Samaria. Why? So that we'll have it through 400 kilometers of borders.
Okay.
That is not the issue. The issue here, and I just want to raise another point, is the problem is not Hamas. The problem is the international media and international organizations that are supporting
this excellent segue to my next question. Thank you very much, Danny Seaman. I want to show you that something that the international spokesman and head of social media for the Israeli Defense Forces wrote on, it was interviewed actually on television, said Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, I hope I didn't butcher his name, he said, "We haven't been able to get that message out of how it is from our side, what we are defending, and the winning picture of overwhelmingly by a knockout, unfortunately, those are his words, a knockout, have been the graphics from the Palestinian side. The amount of casualties has done us a tremendous disservice, unfortunately, and it has been very difficult to tell our story." That's it as an IDF spokesperson. The Palestinian narrative, Amir, of unarmed people being shot by a powerful military is dominating international news. Why is that?
It was very clear since day one, and I have said it openly in many interviews, that for Hamas there are 2 possible victorious pictures. One is, of course, being successful in breaking the fence and infiltrating into villages, maybe killing a few. That would be a victory picture. And the other one is to have mass killings of their own, especially women and children, which they want. And we have done the best that we can to prevent any of those 2 pictures.
But apparently you didn't do well enough. You didn't do well enough.
Of course, because for Hamas, this was the purpose. To have their own citizens
killed. You can't win, can you, then? You were former head of the GPO, dealing with this a lot. You can't win this PR battle, can you?
Who cares about the PR battle?
That was your job.
I'm looking. Wait a minute.
You just said the problem was the international media. So you can't have it both ways.
That doesn't let me finish.
No, you can't have it both ways.
You just said that I said that makes a point. The point. Listen, maybe you'll learn something. The point here is very simple. The point here is very simple. When you take it from the broader picture, for us, the victory is that there's not a single Jew dead. That's the thing I care about. That here in the state of Israel, Jews are no longer helpless victims. Now, beyond that, you have if the international community supported the Jews 75, 80 years ago when we were in the Holocaust. That doesn't happen anymore. The media is responsible because they know the facts. They know the truth.
20 seconds.
They continue to cater to the Hamas.
20-second response there, Daniel.
No, I actually agree with him that who cares about the PR battle? But you just said that everything is the fault of the international media, so you can't have it both ways.
No, it is one
You can't
way.
have it both. I don't care about the international media.
They know the facts.
That's the only thing I have to say.
They are unprofessional.
I care about international media, but I have my priorities. And the first priority is to defend.
I don't think it's the main issue.
Commercial break.
I don't think it's the main.
Israeli media is reporting on cooperation with Egypt to lower the flames, and it's apparently working. The IDF pulled back some forces it stationed on the border, and there are less Gazans protesting near the fence. If it was known that there were going to be these mass protests on Monday for weeks beforehand, could this kind of cooperation earlier have saved dozens of lives and thousands of injuries?
Unfortunately not, because...
No? I'll let you react. Go ahead.
No,
you
no,
first.
the answer is no. I don't think that it could have been prevented. If Hamas wants to kill their own people, they can do it.
But
if they would demonstrate, if they would try to break the fence between Gaza to Egypt, we weren't talking about 60 casualties. We were talking about hundreds and thousands of casualties.
Now we're seeing that Egypt is managing. It's showing how important a role it has in this region. It can lower the flames. We could have happened earlier.
We have a very close cooperation with the Egyptians and with the Jordanians, by the way, and with more that I cannot elaborate on. But because we have a mutual enemy, a mutual risk. In the Egyptian case, it's the Islamic Brotherhood and Hamas as their proxy. In other cases, it's of course Iran, which is the major issue.
Okay.
Maybe
Daniel Sheikh, you agree that it couldn't have helped if it had happened? This cooperation earlier?
It could only have happened after the event, because Hamas needed the images and needed the mass protests and all that.
And Israel gave them those images.
I agree with them.
And Israel gave them those images.
Well, you know, yeah, that's a shame, but it couldn't have been prevented in advance.
I don't know.
To have the same images to our citizens.
The only thing I don't like in Amir Ohana's statement was the comparison to Egypt. I don't like to be compared to Egypt. That's not the same standards.
Let's not compare it to Egypt. Let's look at the...
Not the same standards.
Over the past month, 600 Palestinians were killed in Syria.
Much better.
No, but
comparison to Syria is much better.
Not our comparison. The attitude of the international community. That's what I'm asking. How they behave when it has to do with Jews and when it has to do with Arabs
talking about Amir Ohana, not about the international community.
Okay, so I want to move on to our next topic. The opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem on Monday was a diplomatic triumph for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But while Israel's relations with its most important ally are now better than ever, its ties with another former ally are sinking fast. Turkey has expelled Israeli diplomats, a move which led Israel to do some diplomatic expelling of its own. Both Netanyahu and Turkish President Erdogan have indulged in name-calling more reminiscent of the corridors of a school rather than the corridors of power. Netanyahu's son, Yair, didn't hold back either, posting an image on his Instagram, which you see now, his Instagram account, which not only was the opposite of diplomacy, but left no one wondering what he thinks of the country, which once, long ago, was Israel's most important ally in the region. Amir, isn't this tit for tat, both sides humiliating diplomats in front of cameras, quite childish?
I wouldn't say childish, but it is unfortunate. I think that we had known very good times between Israel and Turkey, and unfortunately it is not the case currently. The choice of Erdogan in Turkey to take sides with Hamas once again, not for the first time, and to humiliate Israeli diplomacies leaves us no choice.
You know Netanyahu, very well. Do you think he knew of his son's Yair Instagram post?
No, I don't think he knew about it.
Before it was posted?
I don't think he knew about it. I don't think Yair Netanyahu is confirming every post or picture he uploads with his father.
Maybe he's not following him on Instagram.
Maybe he's not. Well, I actually want to ask you, Daniel, because you were, ambassador to France. You're also the head of the European department in the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Does what Yair Netanyahu, what he did there, does that make it more difficult for your colleagues that are still working in the ministry?
No, it's unimportant, and let's move on.
I agree with him also.
What you said, it's not nice, but it's not important, and you shouldn't give it any more importance than it has.
Everyone is.
Everyone is. I'm not. I always like to be a minority. What can I do? But I do have to say that what you said about Turkey being an important ally for many years already, that is not the case, and I don't see any, in the foreseeable future, any possibility for that to happen. You don't have to be a genius to understand that for reasons of domestic politics and regional aspirations, President Erdogan has no plausible motivation to consider Israel as a close ally.
And one could argue that Yair Netanyahu doesn't make things easier.
You should just keep your expectations as low as possible on that event.
Okay, right.
No reason to get offended. To add to that is the fact that Erdogan has an interest in building up his position among the Arabs. Right. By us giving that importance, we're building him up among the Muslims, and we shouldn't play into his hands with that. We should ignore him because he's irrelevant to the situation here.
Okay, so Amir, you're now proposing a bill to officially recognize the Armenian genocide, that massacre of 1.5 million Armenian people by the Ottoman forces during World War I. Why?
for many, many years, the one and only obstacle to confirming or to acknowledging the Armenian genocide was the relationships between Israel and Turkey. Because historically, it's a fact. During World War I, half of the Armenian people were killed in various horrific ways, and 29 of these countries in the world already recognized. Some of them are our best friends. And in the US, 48 out of the 50 states recognize it. I think after all we have been through, although it has been righteous to accept that for many, many years, but now it is also the diplomatically possible.
I mean, the bill was up, a different bill was up from Yair Lapid 3 months ago, and your party, and you voted against it.
Yes.
So now 3 months later, what's changed?
First of all, we did have a change in the last few days.
Just diplomatically. Now, nothing about the Armenian genocide changed.
What I'm doing in my bill is trying to challenge the government to this time to accept this
Amir,
bill.
you're saying that you said it is not too late to pursue justice. It's time to officially acknowledge the terrible injustice done to the Armenians. You're using those 1.5 million people killed by genocide as a tool in your revenge against Erdogan, not because of the principle of recognizing the genocide and pursuing justice, but because now you want revenge against someone else.
I always said, and I am saying now, it was right to recognize it many years ago, but we didn't do it because of diplomatic reasons.
And you didn't do it 3 months ago as well, when
because of diplomatic reasons. Now I think it is the time for the government to say, okay, the relationship with Turkey
because Erdogan made you angry.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, yes. Now is the time, because of the behavior of Erdogan.
And so it has nothing to do with justice.
No, it was just for too long.
No, just
but now it is diplomatically just.
It's the decent thing to do, to recognize the genocide. But it's
deplorable.
Was decent
3 months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's deplorable that it's being used as a punishment for the Turks.
Isn't it?
I disagree with both of you.
Well, you can.
But Danny and I had many years in government. We both know that we had particular opinions about these things, and Amir has the same difficulty. Sometimes governments have interests. I wasn't happy about it. I voiced my opinion about it, but governments are run by the elected officials. The elected government has its interest. In this case, there was an interest for Israel with Turkey for many years. It served that interest, not raising that issue. We can talk as much as we want about the issues of principle. Now, Amir is right. You jump on the opportunity.
I'm sure Armenians feel great about being a tool in this diplomatic level.
To be honest, Ami, most countries in the world, including some of the very, very best friends of ours, continue to hold back on such bills for reasons of interest. So, I mean, it's really not.
So is it also deplorable?
No,
yes, it is. Of course it is.
He's consistent.
I mean, we have to go for an important point. When you're weak, nobody cares about you. That's where Israel, the lesson that we have to learn.
Okay, I'll call it an outcome.
I don't think many Israelis support that outcome. If you would ask me between the one-state solution and the two-state solution, I would support the 1.5-state solution, which means between the river and the sea, everyone gets to vote. Those who live under the Palestinian parliament, Palestinian government, judicial system, education system, votes for the Palestinian parliament. And those who live under the Israeli Knesset government, education system, judicial system, vote for the Knesset. It is not ideal by all means. It is not a solution in the sense it will not bring immediate peace. But it is the lesser evil when I consider all of the other options.
Are we heading towards a one-state outcome with this stalemate that seems never-ending, basically?
I hope not. I hope not. There's nothing more I can say. I mean, there's not much hope for anything else for the moment.
That is the direction.
But the direction right now by the government is only one. It's the status quo. And that is the big mistake, because the status quo in the Middle East is a non-existent phenomenon. It only exists in the minds of politicians. Reality doesn't accept the status quo. Reality is dynamic.
And reality is dynamic, and which means that the Arabs have always lived under the impression that they can do whatever they want, they can be aggressive against Israel, and it doesn't matter what the consequences are, they will always be pampered by the international community. Now they're learning that there's a price to pay. They are losing. They lost the war. If they would accept the consequences and accept the existence of the state of Israel, we would be very generous with them. They may even have a state, but under the situation as it is today, they're getting nothing, and if they don't move, they're the ones. We have a state. We have recognition, international recognition. If they don't move, they're going to be losing. And then you do have two states. One is Israel, the other is Jordan. They will be citizens of Jordan eventually.
We'll have to see if that works out. We'll move on to our next topic. The controversial nation-state bill that would enshrine Israel's Jewish character has passed its first reading in the parliament, but it still needs to pass a second and third reading before it can become law. You're a strong supporter of the nation-state bill. Why does the Jewish state need a bill when everybody knows it's the Jewish state?
Well, as you know, Israel does not have a constitution. But every constitution, and most countries in the world do have constitution, have three legs. The first leg is human rights. We have that in the basic law of Kvod Adam V'Cheruto. How do you translate that? Sorry.
It's one of the basic laws. We'll leave it that way.
One of the basic laws. The other leg is the institutions.
Yes.
Basic law of the Knesset, basic law of the government,
right,
and so on and so forth.
But why does it need this one?
And the third leg is exactly the leg that we are talking about, the one that is talking about the vision. What is the vision? What is the purpose of the state? What is the nature of it? And this is exactly what we're trying to do after 70 years to give Israel an identity card.
There's one clause that gets a lot of criticism. It would allow for Jewish-only communities. And
not Jewish-only, but community. The state can allow different communities, whether they have the same religion or the same nationality. It could be an Arab-only village. Why do you say Jewish-only village? You have Arab village as well. But if you do not support that, if you do not accept that, how can you leyahed et Galil?
To Judaize the Galilee.
To Judaize the Galilee. We have a minority of Jews in the Galilee. We want to bring more villages, more people to live. How can you do that? Now, it may sound like the bad guys versus the good guys, but when Aaron Barak, and I don't think that any of the Daniels suspect him to be a nationalist or a right-wing supporter, had to decide in the Ka'adan case.
This is the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
The former Supreme Justice of the Supreme Court, and he said, this decision is the most difficult decision I have taken as a judge. Okay. So it's not a clear-cut bad guys
but
versus
it's one
good guys.
thing as a decision of a court on a specific case. It's another as a basic law, which you put it. It's
so
not at all the same thing.
You can do it, but don't write it.
No. When you have a judicial review of something, I'm a great believer in judicial review, and I believe in the courts and in the judges. There's a reason for it. So I don't think I mean, it's not exactly the same debate, but I don't think the comparison is good.
Examples?
But I think that just for the third leg, because the description is very correct. I'm very happy with the Declaration of Independence as a third leg. I don't need anything else.
Don't need anything else.
It's fine.
Yeah, but sometimes with the courts, as we've seen here, when you give them too much authority and too much responsibility and too much power, they abuse it. Yes, I don't care who it is. They are not above
you do care
human.
Who it is.
No, I don't care who it is.
We all care who it is. We all care who it is.
Any human being, the moment they're given absolute power, they take advantage of it.
They don't have absolute
They abuse
power.
it, and that's what the power.
It's the law.
That's what.
Power.
Okay, so the
they
law.
interpret the law.
You uphold the law. All right, so now they'll pass a law about the right of Judaism here as the national identity of the Jewish state, and they won't be able to undermine that law because there are forces here trying to undermine it under the guise of law. Okay. And I am the law, as Arnold Schwarzenegger,
you're a bit paranoid.
I'm not paranoid. They're proving it.
You're paranoid.
And I'd rather be paranoid. Sometimes even paranoids have enemies.
In the minute that we have left, today is International Anti-Homophobia Day. You are the first homosexual Knesset member of the Likud party. How do you see homophobia in Israel today?
Well, I think we are on the right path. I don't think only 10 years ago or 12 years ago, when we were talking about LGBT issues in the Knesset, you would hear ultra-Orthodox members like Nissim Ze'ev saying we should treat them like the chicken flu, Shapat Ofadabius, the bird flu. The bird flu. And Nissim Ben-Izri, another MK,
ultra-Orthodox MK.
Yes, saying they are the reason for the disaster in the world. Yeah. Now you can hear even the ultra-Orthodox talking in different language. We are in the process of an evolution.
Okay.
Not a revolution, but an evolution in a positive way.